Hey folks, Coach Wade here. I'm talking to you about another one of our knots to know. This one's number 15 in our series of knots to know. This is the clinch knot. The clinch knot is almost exclusively a fishing knot. I think you could probably use it for some other purposes, but it's mainly used with a piece of monofilament line. That's that clear fishing line you see, and especially it's used usually to attach a hook, often a lot smaller than this, to attach that hook to the end of a piece of leader, a really thin line. Today I'm going to be using a pretty big piece of line, and obviously I'm going to be using a big hook. This is actually a big game hook, or a shark hook that you'd use for catching shark or tuna fish. But I've used this gear so that we can really see what we're doing. But remember, keep in mind that this is really meant to be used with a smaller hook and a piece of monofilament. In fact, I'm a pretty novice fly fisherman. I'm not a great fly fisherman, but this is what I use to attach a tiny little fly to a piece of really thin, almost, hard to see without a magnifying glass piece of monofilament. So with that said, I'm going to sit down here at the table and show you how to tie the knot. So obviously the first thing we need to do is to pass our piece of line, again usually a piece of monofilament, pass it through the hook. And then we want to take enough of a running end. In fishing we usually call it the tag end. I want to pass, maybe about twice or three times the length of the hook through the eye of that needle, and now I've created a bite with my hook at the end of it. This knot is so simple, you're going to enjoy this. Oh, I'm sitting on my line. So I have this bite with a hook in it, and all I need to do now is make a series of turns. So that's one complete turn. I'm going to need to make a minimum of 4 complete turns. I'm going to make 5. So that was 2. That's 3. Another one, 4, and here's my last one, 5. Now, here's the part, this is where we really tie the knots. We've made those wraps. I'm going to scooch the wraps up a little bit. And what I need to do now is I need to take that running, or again in fishing we'll call it the tag end, this end, my running end, and I need to pass it through the first loop closest to the hook where I'm going to secure it. So I pass it through, and I'm going to make it a little bigger so you can see on the video. Here's my hook, and that's the first loop created by those wraps. I pass it through there, and I pull it through just far enough, and I can basically forget about it from there. In this case, because I'm not working with monofilament, I'm going to dress it up a little bit, meaning I'm going to, just by hand, push these wraps up. Here's a little trick that fishermen like to use when they tie this knot. Some fishermen don't bother, and they say it's almost superstitious and you don't need to do it. Other fishermen swear by it. If I'm really fishing, I might spin on my hands a little bit and then rub it on that tiny piece of monofilament to make it moist. And the purpose for that is to decrease friction as I'm tightening the knot down. You're going to see in a minute, I'm just going to pull, and I'm going to pull pretty hard on this to cinch these wraps or collars down on the end of the knot. When I do that, it does create a little bit of friction, and the idea is you don't want the piece of monofilament sliding against each other dry, creating heat and maybe starting to burn through the line a little bit. As I say, I've done it both ways. I've done it with spit, I've done it without spit, and I've lost fish both ways. So I can't tell you that it's because I did or didn't spit on it, but there you go. All right, so now the last thing we need to do is I'm going to pull the hook itself, which is pulling the end of this, and I'm going to pull the standing end of the line. And I don't even need to mess with that tag end. And you'll see it's tight, so I'm going to, with monofilament, it'd slide more easily. Now my collars are sliding down.
No, you don't do that, Victor. Why?
And this is what I'm looking for.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
a series of tight wraps, parallel to one another,
When Victor stops getting a match, then it's
cinched down.
Victor, you only
And
get
again,
2
you
cards.
pull on this really tight, and if you're doing it with a piece of heavy line like I'm going to do, it's going to be tough for these collars to slide, so you might have to dress it up a little with your finger. If you do this with a piece of monofilament, as soon as you have the wrap set and you slip that tag end through, you'll just pull the standing end and the hook, and it'll come right away. It's almost like it's trained to do it. And the last thing I'll point out, if I'm really fishing, especially if I'm fly fishing, I want to make as much of this invisible as possible. So I would clip with a pair of nail clippers this last piece of monofilament, this tag end, very close to the knot, so it's not, so we're doing everything we can to camouflage the line. But that's our knot.
you can't win.
And I'll just point out again that the reason this knot is used, my friend George, who's nice enough to film me, has pointed out that the reason we like this knot as a fishing knot to secure the end of the hook is when the fish puts pressure on this hook and it gets caught. It's very effective at translating that force directly to the line rather than to any kink in the line. So it lines up these collars nice and neatly so that there's no one weak point in the knot system where it's likely to cut the line and sever the line. So we'll cut for a second as I untie this knot, and then I'll just do it again. And actually, I don't even know if we need to cut it. You can watch me untangle the knot. Maybe that'll help. Yeah, that's a good idea. For the final one, get really close.
I'm still rolling.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I can. Yeah, I can edit. I'll just put it in my Apple, my iPhone video.
I think we're gonna be better off for most of the stuff right above here, not tying.
Okay.
Where do you think 9.
This is yours?
Yeah.
I'll make myself
All right. So again, I'm gonna just tie. Tell me when you're ready. Okay, so I'm just going to tie this one more time. And again, remember, what we've done is we've passed through a piece of line, really a piece of monofilament. I passed through a piece of line through the eye in my hook. That creates a bite. With that bite, I'm going to create a series of wraps or loops by simply turning revolutions in the hook itself. And you'll see those wraps or loops are starting to be formed. And I want to make a minimum of 4 revolutions. I'm going to make 5.
Even the kid says that.
And there we go. Okay, and so now, I'm not going to let that come loose because I don't want to unravel my wraps. I'm going to take my tag end and I'm going to pass it through the original loop. So there's my original loop. I made it nice and big. This is my tag or running end. It goes through the original loop. And then I really don't forget about the tag end because all I'm going to do is I'm simply going to pull on the standing end and on the hook itself until these wraps start to form a bite. And as I've told you before, again, this is not monofilament line. The monofilament line slides on itself very easily. I would probably, if this were monofilament line, if I really wanted to be careful, I might spit on my fingers and rub it on the monofilament to decrease the tension and let it slide more easily. But there it is. It just slides into place. And I'm pulling nice and tight. And there is my nice tight clinch knot. And last thing I'd do is I'd clip that tag end really close to the knot, and I'd throw my line in and catch fish. Beautiful.
Perfecto.